G'day, I'm Dylan, and this is the KTM 1390 Super Adventure R. Yes, it's a bit of a mouthful, but this bike is built in Austria. It's got class-leading power and suspension travel, and it's got plenty of Dakar DNA, and it might just be one of the craziest adventure bikes I've ever ridden. In this video, I'm going to tell you exactly why.
KTM has been in the wars lately, reliability concerns, a full-blown financial crisis, and a new majority owner based in India almost 8,000 kilometers from the brand's Austrian homeland. You think that would be enough to cripple any motorcycle maker. But KTM is built differently. Its people are motorcyclists first and employees second. It's a company built on passion and performance, and that probably explains why it's won, well, just about everything.
But the facts are the facts. KTM's new majority owner is Indian giant Bajaj Auto, and there is a growing focus on small capacity and affordable machines. But make no mistake, KTM still makes bikes in Austria, and bloody good ones at that. And this one is a very good example.
The KTM 1390 Super Adventure R launched last year as an overhaul of the popular 1290 Super Adventure R, which we named the best big bore adventure bike back in 2023. The new bike benefits from KTM's latest generation 1350cc V-twin, updated technology, beefier suspension, and a revised design. It's not cheap at just under $36,000 right away, but that still puts it in the ballpark of the base spec Ducati and BMW equivalents. And on paper at least, it stacks up very strongly against both.
The biggest news with the new 1390 Super Adventure R is that with this new engine, it's now the most powerful bike in its class with 171 horsepower and 145 newton meters. That puts it ahead of Ducati, BMW, Harley-Davidson, Triumph, all of them. The increase in power is possibly partly due to the addition of variable valve timing, which KTM calls CAMSHIFT, possibly a playful nod to BMW's Shift Cam. Trademark dispute? We'll leave that one up to you. But Harley-Davidson and BMW both have versions of this, and it's clear KTM's done its homework to try and best its opponents by adding all of these new features. Another big improvement is the suspension. The old 1290 already had 220 mils of travel front and rear, which was class leading, but this new 1390 bumps it up to a whopping 240 mils of travel, which is seriously impressive for a big bike like this. The bike still runs a WP XPLOR fork and PDS monoshock, and both are fully adjustable. And I'm not sure if there's any other internal changes with the suspension, but as I'll explain a little bit later, the new 1390 feels like a big step up from the previous bike. There is an S version of this bike too, which comes with semi-active electronic suspension, and some people might wonder why this R version doesn't have that. But I think when you're talking about a bike that's made for off-road terrain and use in remote areas, I think it makes more sense to have a traditional manually adjustable setup because there's less that can go wrong, and I think with this setup it works really, really well. And what about tech? Well, as you'd expect, there's plenty of it. And my favorite part is this new vertically mounted TFT touchscreen. Yes, touchscreen. There's not too many brands that do that. Harley and Indian both do it, but I'm really stoked to see KTM make that choice. I haven't had a chance to test it in muddy or rainy conditions yet, so I'm not sure how to go there, but you can still use the switch gear, so there shouldn't be too many issues. The switchgear is all new too, and it's super high quality. And finally, after all these years, KTM's finally added a dedicated ride mode button. Previously, you had to go trawling through the menu systems to change ride modes, but now you can just do it with a simple press of a button, and I'm really stoked on that. The menu system itself has also been overhauled with new graphics and a new interface, and it looks really nice. And there's plenty of adjustability, customization, and information. And I think the vertically mounted layout gives it a nice rally bike vibe, which I really, really love. As for electronic ride arrays, the Super Adventure R has just about everything. It's got cornering optimized ABS and traction control, multiple ride modes, cruise control, keyless ignition, and tire pressure monitoring as standard. But I do have one gripe. There's a lot of features that should be standard at this price, but are actually optional extras. Things like quick shifter, rally mode, hill hold control, and radar cruise control. Now, this isn't unusual. A lot of brands do this. They charge extra for optional features. But the problem with this is that you can actually see them in the menu. Quite literally, they are there. Some of the features are actually fitted to the bike, but you can't use them because they're locked behind a paywall.
I'll forgive KTM though, because it's one small flaw in what is an otherwise very impressive machine. KTM made a point of telling people this bike was built in Austria, and the build quality and finish are really superb. Of course, long-term reliability is still to be determined, but if you keep on top of your servicing schedule and know your local KTM dealer, you shouldn't have too many issues. But the big question, how does it go out in the wild? The short answer is that it's a significant improvement on what was already a great bike. The new V-twin is a beast with crisp, urgent power delivery right through the rev range. It's fantastic on the tarmac and still tractable and controllable off-road, making it very versatile. Make no mistake though, that class leading horsepower and torque will bite you if you're not paying attention. The electronics work very well, but even a small tap of the throttle can step the rear out very quickly. As mentioned earlier, the suspension is also better. Where the 1290 always felt like a big bike, the 1390 glides over bumps, rocks, potholes and ruts like an 890 Adventure R with a bigger engine. Both ends have excellent progression and give you huge confidence when the terrain gets tricky. Combine that with a fire-breathing engine and a stiffer chassis, and it's not hard to imagine that you're riding a rally-ready race bike. But it is still a tall and heavy machine, and I found the sheer size cost it a little bit on twisty tarmac roads. You can still have fun, but don't expect super sharp handling like you'd find on, say, a Ducati Multistrada. That said, this is a dirt-focused adventure bike, and off-road, it's quite simply unmatched in the big bore adventure segment. A few other things to note: the TFT was easy to read while riding, the short windscreen didn't create too much buffering, and the optional quick shifter was buttery smooth. One small complaint is that the bike is quite wide through the flanks and my knee kept butting up against the fuel tank, which was annoying but not a deal breaker. Overall, the 1390 Super Adventure R is one of the most mental bikes I've ridden. It's a challenge to try and wrap your head around how such a big motorcycle can feel so fast, agile and ready for any terrain. Only time will tell whether this bike proves to be a success story for KTM, but I can honestly say it's one of the most complete large capacity adventure bikes I've ever ridden. And I'm pretty shattered that I have to give it back.